There are a handful of flowers that are absolutely classic and synonymous with summer. Hydrangeas are one of those. They can be exceptionally easy to grow when you know the basics. Stay with me and I will give you a great Hydrangea 101. Hey friends, it is Jenny. Welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we're going to go over hydrangeas. All the basics that you need to know about hydrangeas so that you can have absolutely gorgeous flowers during the summer. I love hydrangeas. They're really easy to grow when you know the basics. So what I want you to do is we're going to pause this video for a minute. You're going to go grab your favorite drink, your notepad. We're going to stay right here. Go do that because we're going to take some notes. All right, now that you have your stuff, we're going to go over hydrangeas because we're going to go a little scientific because you've got to know a little science behind the hydrangeas in order to grow them well. Okay, so here we go. There are several different types of hydrangeas, different species, if you will, of hydrangeas. And depending on the species will depend on how you care for them. So the first one is what I just call the old-timey hydrangea. Now a little Latin here. This is going to be the Macrophylla species of hydrangeas. These are the kinds that our grandmothers grew and that maybe you grew up with. They are the classic mop head hydrangeas, just that nice pretty ball, the classic hydrangea that you think of. Now with these guys, they like to be in the shade. They are not sun hydrangeas. So remember, shade, about 4 hours or less of sun. They like to have consistent moisture so they cannot grow dry. They need to have consistent water, and they bloom on old growth. Now, this is very important for those of you who maybe have not had blooms for years and you're like, why am I not getting any blooms? One of the first questions I'm going to ask you is, are you pruning your hydrangeas? And I would say about 98% of the time people go, yes, every fall I trim those hydrangeas. Well, that's your problem, because these classic, they're called the big leaf hydrangeas, bloom on old growth. During the summer, right now, they are already making their buds for next year. So if you cut them at any point, basically from midsummer, anywhere till the next spring, you are removing all of your flowers for the following year. So the best thing for these big leaf hydrangeas is to just absolutely leave them alone. If you do have to prune them, do it immediately after they bloom. Of course, hydrangeas make great vases, great bouquets. So if you need to shape up your hydrangea and you need to give it a little tweak, maybe it's getting a little too big, go ahead and just cut off all your blooms, make gorgeous bouquets for your house, give them to your friends, whatever. Trim it back, shape it up. You don't want to do a severe haircut on it. Just get it to the shape that you need and then leave it alone. Very simple. Next, we have the mountain hydrangeas. Those are the Hydrangea serrata. These are also known as lace caps. So a lace cap hydrangea has a great, almost like two sets of blooms on it. And on the edges, it looks like lace with the bigger flowers, petals on the edges. Now, again, these hydrangeas do not really like to be pruned, and typically they are more shade. In the south, they can take a little bit of morning sun, but they certainly cannot take that intense hot afternoon sun. Again, they like it nice and damp, nice and moist. You do not want to prune them unless you absolutely have to, and you would do it right after they bloom. So gorgeous lace caps. I love lace caps. The Tough Stuff is a great one from Proven Winners. It's just a high performer, and they are going to be, the color of the blooms will be dependent on your soil pH. So depending if you have acidic or what's the word? Alkaline. So if you have acidic or alkaline soil, that will depend on what color your flowers are. The big leaves are going to be that way also. So you're going to be what we call soil dependent, pH soil dependent on your blooms. Moving on to the next one are oak leaf hydrangeas. Now, oak leaf hydrangeas are probably one of the least well-known hydrangeas, but they are absolutely magnificent. They are known as oak leaf because guess what? Their leaves look like oak leaves. Absolutely gorgeous, nice and big. They have gorgeous, big kind of conical blooms on them. Usually are going to be like a creamy white, and then they will change and maybe into a little pink. Oak leaves will get nice and big. They can be a great specimen plant, again, for your shade to part shade area. They can get easily, depending on the variety, like 8 to 10 feet tall. You do not want to prune your oak leaves. Like, they do not like to be pruned at all. So you need to put it where it will have plenty of room for it to grow. If you want to prune it, you can simply snip off the old blooms if that just drives you crazy, because I know some people, those older blooms, it just drives them nuts. You can snip it off, but you need to leave it alone. Other than that, in the fall, the foliage will turn a gorgeous, like a deep red, just classic fall color. So it makes a great addition to that fall landscape in your garden. And then a lot of times, even in the wintertime, the bark will kind of start to peel. So it has a really unique texture to it in the winter. So you want to leave those alone. Don't prune them. But they are fantastic. They will be long living for your shade garden. Next, we are going to go to one of my favorites. I have probably 2 favorites. So this is probably number 2. So these are called smooth hydrangeas. And these hydrangeas are part of the arborescens species, and they are actually native to the southeast area of North America. So they do great here. They actually start to like some full sun. So you can put more sun on these guys, full sun to part sun. You really are going to want to watch your zones for your specific variety of hydrangea. One of my all-time favorites is Proven Winter's Incredible. Just an absolutely gorgeous, big, huge mop head. That classic creamy white is absolutely gorgeous. So these smooth hydrangeas are also sometimes called like Annabelle hydrangeas. Remember, we've talked about this before. Annabelles are just that classic hydrangea that is part of this family. The Incredible is one that has been bred to be a little stronger stem so they don't flop. Really, really sturdy, great blooms on it. Again, we said full sun to part sun, average to moist. So they can go just a hair drier than your other hydrangeas, and you can prune these because they bloom on new growth. This is why we love them so much. They bloom on new growth, so that means in the early spring or late winter, you can actually prune them back by 1/3 or 1/2 of their size. One of our customers told me this little tip, which I absolutely loved. She said that her mama told her, think of Valentine's Day. You trim back your flowering shrubs on Valentine's Day because Valentine's Day, a lot of times you get flowers. So Valentine's Day flowers, oh, that reminds me, I need to go trim my flowering shrubs for this coming year. So hopefully that will help some of you to remember when to prune these great hydrangeas. So they bloom on new growth. You trim them back at Valentine's Day. Then in the spring, once they put out that new flush of blooms, then they're actually putting on their buds right there. I love these because you're guaranteed blooms every single year. With those old-timey big leaf hydrangeas, you could, if you pruned it at the wrong time, if you had a late freeze, then it would kill those buds and you could go years without having any blooms at all. And that's not fun for anybody. So, coming in next, the last one we're going to talk about is probably my favorite hydrangea because it is absolutely just the easiest hydrangea, I think, on the market. Those are the Panicle Hydrangeas, or for the Latin, Paniculata. So, why do we love Panicle Hydrangeas? Well, one reason is behind me. Behind me, you will see Limelight Hydrangea. This is from Proven Winners. This particular one is probably, gosh, about 10 years old. I planted her a long time ago. And you can see that she is an absolute wonderful beast of a hydrangea. Every year, I prune her back at that Valentine's Day because she blooms on new growth also. I am guaranteed to have my gorgeous blooms every single year. which is fantastic. They can do a lot more sun than any of the other hydrangeas. So this limelight that is behind me, she is under some canopy of some trees, but she gets direct sun in the morning, half a day of sun, and then the sun sets in the west, which is behind the trees, so she is a little bit shaded. I have found for us southern gardeners that if you can give your hydrangeas a break, regardless of what kind they are, especially if they're the shade ones, obviously, but even the ones that say full sun, if you can give them a break from that late, intense, hot sun, then that's really good, because they can handle it, but you will start to see by the end of July into August, they start to look a little sad, a little burnt, just weary and tired. So if you can plant them where they will receive at least 6 hours of sun, but a little bit of break from that really hot afternoon sun, then you will get a great performance from your hydrangeas. Panicle hydrangeas are also known as the black thumb hydrangea. So if you have struggled and you cannot get your hydrangeas to bloom, you just have not had success, I want you to go and I want you to find a great panicle hydrangea. Some from proven winners that are just, I can speak from experience, that are fantastic. Obviously, limelight. Now if you're like, Jenny, I don't have room for that massive hydrangea at my house. Totally get it, no worries. Go for little lime. Little lime is just the dwarf version of limelight. 3 to 5 feet tall, still all the same characteristics, all the color, bloom is fantastic. Firelight is another great one. It starts out this creamy white, it turns to pink, and then it will be an intense red late in the summer. We have these growing on the bank behind the silverberries. Gorgeous, absolutely stunning. And then of course, you cannot forget about Bobo. Bobo is another great panicle hydrangea from proven winners. Gorgeous, big, huge, creamy white blooms. Little petite, it's not as big, and it is a great hydrangea. So I hope this has helped answer some of your questions as far as pruning, location. It really does, when you go to your local nursery, if you will look at the tag, you need to know what kind it is. So is it a macrophylla? Is it an arborescent? Is it a panicle? Is it an oak leaf? Those things do matter, because it's going to matter where you put it in your garden and how you treat it in the coming years. Because if you do just the basic things to it and give it just a little bit of TLC, it will give you years and years of gorgeous blooms. Now, one thing we have not talked about, because we're not really talking about specific hydrangeas, just highlighting one hydrangea, I want you to look at your zones. So if you do not know what your growing hardiness zone is, just Google, what is the hardiness zone for, and put in your zip code, and it will tell you what you are. So of course, y'all know by now that we are in North Carolina, in Dallas. We are a zone 7B. I like to pick plants that give me a bit of a buffer for my growing zone. So what does that mean? It means that I like to get plants that are at least cold hardy to a 5 and really heat tolerant at least to a 9. Now, the exception is this limelight. She's to an 8, but because she gets a lot of the break from the afternoon sun, I feel okay. So if you are in zone 8, maybe you want to look for your buffer to be from a 6 to a 9 or a 10. If you're a zone 5, you want to look for your buffer to be a zone 3 to 7. So you've got to really kind of pay attention to what your growing zones are, and do you kind of lie right there. If you do, and you put it in the right location with the right sun, she's going to give you lots and lots of blooms for years and years to come. Hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, put it in the comments below. I will do my best to answer them. Make sure you like this video. Thank you so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.